Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Caitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Sya. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Manchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So let's begin reading from, we continue reading from Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 3, Chapter 6, Text 10. Smaran Vishwasrajam Isho Vikyapitam Adhokshajaha Virajam Atpatsvena Tejasesam Vivrittaye Tejasesam Vivrittaye. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord is the super soul of all the demigods, entrusted with the task of constructing the cosmic manifestation. Being thus prayed to by the demigods, he thought to himself and thus manifested the gigantic form for their understanding. So Krishna, he's the Paramatma, also in the heart of all the demigods. And these demigods, Krishna empowered them to manage the universe. But because the demigods were praying to Krishna, oh my dear Krishna, please help us, my dear Lord. We don't know what we are supposed to do, how we are supposed to manage. Please empower us. So being thus prayed to the Lord, he manifested his universal form, the Vishwarup, the Virat Rup. The impersonalists are captivated by the gigantic universal form of the Supreme. They think that the control behind this gigantic manifestation is an imagination. Intelligent persons, however, can estimate the value of the cause by observing the wonders of the effects. For example, the individual human body does not develop from the womb of the mother independently, but because the living entity, the soul, is within the body. So how does the child grow inside the mother's womb? It's only because the soul is there, the Jivatma is there. If the soul was not there, then matter cannot just grow by itself. So without the living entity, a material body cannot automatically take shape or develop. When any material object displays development, It must be understood that there is a spiritual soul within the manifestation. The gigantic universe has developed gradually, just as the body of a child develops. The conception that the transcendence enters within the universe is therefore logical. So just as the living entity, the soul, is there inside the womb of the mother, and that's the reason the body of the child is growing, similarly, the Lord has entered into each and every atom of this universe. And that's the reason we can see all the varieties and shape within the universe. As the materialists cannot find the soul and the super soul within the heart, similarly, for want of sufficient knowledge, they cannot see that the Supreme Soul is the cause of the universe. The Lord is therefore described in the Vedic language as Avan Manasa Gocharaha, beyond the conception of words and minds. If we try to understand the Lord and his activities just by our limited mind, then we won't be able to understand him. By our own mental speculation, we cannot, because his activities are inconceivable. They are transcendental. And our mind is all material. Our experience is just limited to the material. So how can we hear about the transcendental, about the inconceivable? We hear from the authority, just as hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam. So, yeah, so many people, they don't understand that it is the Supreme Lord who is behind the working of this universe. Because we know that it's not that we sleep in the night, there is nothing there. It's a desert, for example, and we sleep, and in the morning we wake up and there is a beautiful city and all the roads and the trees and the lakes and everything is all set up. No, we know that to even build any city, there is a person behind it. There's a full team of people behind it, and then there is one person who's heading that team. So similarly, the same universe, Krishna is behind the creation and the maintenance and the destruction of this universe. Due to a poor fund of knowledge, the mental speculators try to bring the Supreme within the purview of words and minds. But the Lord refuses to be so intelligible. The speculator has no adequate words or mind to gauge the infinity of the Lord. So if we try to catch Krishna, we try to understand just without hearing from authority, just trying to mentally speculate something, or just by interpreting something, or by just some poetry or some flattery words. But we cannot understand Krishna like that. He's supremely independent. He refuses to be caught like that. He refuses to be understood that way. Why? Because that means we don't want to really understand him. That's the reason we are just making up things. If we really want to understand something, we always hear from authority. Even for anything material, when we want to learn something, we always go approach a person who knows how to do something, who's expert in a field. The Lord is called Adokshaja, or the person who is beyond perception by the blunt, limited potency of our senses. One cannot perceive the transcendental name or form of the Lord by mental speculation. The mundane PhDs are completely unable to speculate on the Supreme with their limited senses. Such attempts by the puffed up PhDs are compared to the philosophy of the frog in the well. A frog in a well was informed of the gigantic Pacific Ocean, and he began to puff himself up in order to understand or measure the length and breadth of the Pacific Ocean. Ultimately, the frog burst and died. So this is the example of the Dr. Frog, that he was living in the well, and somebody came and told him, oh, you're living in the well? Okay, the well has a certain amount of water, but there is a big ocean called the Pacific Ocean, and so the The frog has never seen the ocean, but he does not want to accept the other frog's authority that yes, there is a gigantic Pacific Ocean. He's thinking, how much bigger will be that ocean? Maybe 1.5 times this. Well, what else? Or maybe twice this. Well, what else? Because he's just looking from his own experience point of view. His experience is only the atmosphere, the boundary of the well. So he's not able to understand how could you compare a well with the ocean. So, and by doing that, he started puffing himself up. Maybe it's this big, maybe this big, and he died. The title PhD can also be interpreted as plow department, a title meant for the tillers in the paddy field. The attempt of the tillers in the paddy field to understand the cosmic manifestation and the cause behind such wonderful work can be compared to the endeavor of the frog in the well to calculate the measurement of the Pacific Ocean. So if we simply try to understand the Supreme Lord by our own experience, by our own mind, we won't be able to. We have to hear from the authority. The Lord can reveal himself only to a person who is submissive and who engages in his transcendental loving service. So who should we hear about the Lord from? A person who is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord and who is submissive to the desire of the Lord. So we need to hear about the Lord from such a person. Why? Because to such a person, the Lord has revealed himself. The demigods controlling the elements and ingredients of universal affairs prayed to the Lord for guidance, and thus he manifested his gigantic form as he did at the request of Arjuna. So the universal form belongs to Krishna. So if anybody says that I'm God, we can ask them, my dear sir, please show us your universal form. Because if you're God, means all the universe, everything belongs to you, so you should be able to show it. So Krishna showed this universal form on many occasions. So we can ask that person, please show us your universal form. Is that okay?
So this universal form is shown to the demigods who were praying to Krishna.
Yeah, because they were not able to understand how to do their duty.
Okay.
So the universal form also comes from Krishna. Krishna is the origin. So because many people get confused and they ask us, so this is the way we can answer them. Yeah. Is that okay?
So are there lots and lots of different kind of Virat Roop, because this is different than what was shown to Arjun?
Yes. Because see, Virat Roop also, it's like how many universes are there, countless numbers of universes. Now it depends. Krishna can choose how much he wants to show to a person. No?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he showed a different Virat Roop to Duryodhan. He showed a different Virat. He told to Arjuna, this Virat Roop which I'm showing you now, I've never revealed it to anyone before. Yeah. So this is the inconceivable nature of Krishna. Because of our tiny understanding, we are not able to understand. And so because we think he is a human being like us, like just the Dr. Frog. Because all our experience material, so we say, oh, how can Krishna be so great? Not possible. But he is. If we want to understand him, how great he is, we can. He can. He will reveal himself. If we hear from with submission, if we engage in devotional service, he will reveal to us.
Okay.
So reading on, text 11. Athatasya bhitaptasya kati dhyayat naniha nirbhidyanta devanam tani me gadatah shrinu. Maitreya said. So all this was conversation between Vidur and Maitreya, where Vidur put questions to Maitreya and Maitreya was answering. So Maitreya said, you may now hear from me how the Supreme Lord separated himself into the diverse forms of the demigods after the manifestation of the gigantic universal form. The demigods are separated parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, as are all other living entities. The only difference between the demigods and the ordinary living entities is that when the living entities are rich in pious acts of devotional service to the Lord, and when their desire to lord it over material energy has vanished, they are promoted to the posts of demigods who are entrusted by the Lord with executing the management of the universal affairs. So the demigods are also jivatmas. They are also living entities like we are, and they are also part and parcel of Krishna, like we are part and parcel of Krishna. The difference is that they are devotees of the Lord. They are submissive to the desire of the Lord. And they do have certain desire to manage or to control. And so that's the reason they are given this position of managing the universal affairs. Is that okay? So they are much more qualified than us. Of course, that's the reason they are given these positions. If they were not qualified, Krishna wouldn't put them in the position. So we need to respect all the demigods. So text 12. Respect the demigods, knowing that they are also parts and parcels of Krishna, and that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Okay. Tasyagnir asyam nirbhinam lokapalo avishat padam vacha swamshena vaktavyam yayasav pratipadyate. Agni or heat separated from his mouth, and all the directors of material affairs entered into it in their respective positions. By that energy, the living entity expresses himself in words. The mouth of the gigantic universal form of the Lord is the source of the speaking power. The director of the fire element is the controlling deity or the Adi-Deva. So, because the gigantic form has the mouth, and because he has the power to speak, so we also have the power to speak. But because he has this mouth, that's the source of the power to speak. And then the controlling deity of this mouth and speech is fire. Why? How is that connection? I don't understand that. I don't know. We were just hearing the same thing yesterday in our Bhakti Vaibhav. And also because this creation, the universal form is also mentioned in the second canto. And then again, the same point was there, how the universal form, the mouth was there, and the controlling deity is fire. And even the speaker said, he does not understand what's the connection. The speeches delivered are adhyatma or bodily functions, and the subject matter of the speeches is material productions or the Adi Bhuta principle. So we were hearing Adi Devika, Adi Adhyatma, and Adi Bhautik in miseries. We heard that in misery, and also we heard it in a few days ago in our self-identification.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And so now we are hearing about it is in the matter of speech. What is the Adideva? Adideva in the matter of speech is the Agni Dev, And the speech, the power of speaking is Adhyatma, and what we are speaking is Adhibhuta. So this is just some information. If we have an analytical mind, so for that. And then text 13, Nirbhinam talo varuno loka palo avishadharehe jiva yamshena charasam yayasav pratipadyate. When the palette of the gigantic form was separately manifested, Varuna, the director of water in the planetary systems, entered therein. And thus, the living entity has the facility to taste everything with his tongue. So the palate, we have a palate, and because of this palate, the tongue is able to taste, and the controlling deity is the deity of water called Varuna Dev. Text 14. Nirbhinne ashvinav nase vishnur avishatam padam grane namshena gandhasya pratipatiryato bhavet. When the Lord's two nostrils separately manifested themselves, the dual Ashwini Kumaras entered them in their proper positions. And because of this, the living entities can smell the aromas of everything. So we are always smelling some things, and that is because the Ashwini Kumaras are there. They are controlling our sense of smell. So we can see how fire, our speech is controlled by Agni Dev. And then our palate, ability to taste, is controlled by Varuna Dev. Then our smelling is controlled by Ashwini Kumara. So we always thinking we can do everything ourselves, because it's so automatic. But here we are seeing how the different demigods are in charge of our different bodily functions. Nirbhine akshini tvasta loka palo avishad viboho chakshu sham shena rupanam pratipatiryato bhavet. Thereafter, the two eyes of the gigantic form of the Lord were separately manifested. The sun, the director of light, entered them with the partial representation of eyesight, and thus the living entities can have vision of forms. So it's because of Surya Dev, the deity of the sun, that we are able to see. We are always thinking we can see because of these eyes, right? We say we can see is because of these eyes, but this power to see is coming from the sun god. Nirbhinani asya charmani lokapalo anilo avishat prane namshena samsparsham yena sapratipadyate. When there was a manifestation of skin separated from the gigantic form, Anila, the deity directing the wind, entered with partial touch, and the living and thus the living entities can realize tactile knowledge. So it's because of Anila, the deity of the wind. I used to think Vayudev is the deity of the wind. But anyway, here the name mentioned is Anila. And because of the air, because the air has the quality of touch, so we are able to feel the things. And Karnav asya vinirbhinao dishna yam swam vivishur dishaha Shrotre nam shena shabdasya siddhim yena prapadyate. When the ears of the gigantic form became manifested, all the controlling deities of the directions entered into them with the hearing principles, by which all the living entities hear and take advantage of sound. The ear is the most important instrument in the body of the living entity. The sound is the most important medium for carrying the message of distant and unknown things. So why is the ear the most important? The perfection of all sound or knowledge enters through the ear and makes one's lives perfect. The entire Vedic system of knowledge is received by oral reception only, and thus sound is the most important source of knowledge. So it's because through hearing about Krishna, that we can understand our supreme goal of life. The Vedic system of knowledge is received by oral reception only. And so that's the reason the ear is so important. And we see that the controlling deities of direction is also, they entered into the ear. So I don't know if you all have experienced that when you have an ear infection, then you get a vertigo. You can't balance your body. Or when the tiny crystals in the ear move away, the sense of balance is not there. It's so terrible. And then, so with the ear is the sense of direction and to hear about the absolute truth. And also the example is given why the ear is very important. When you're sleeping, when somebody's sleeping, how do you wake them up? You have to call out their name. Then they will wake up. Because if you touch them, they might just like shove off your hand and roll their back and go back to sleep on another side, But when you shout in their ears, hey, wake up, and then they'll say, oh my God, what happened? So that's the reason the ear is very important. We are all sleeping here. We are sleeping in the lap of Maya. And only when this transcendental sound vibration enters our ears, enters through our ears, then slowly we can understand our true position. Transcendental sound vibration of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Transcendental sound vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. So hearing is important. Also, like if we have experienced that if the door is closed, we can't see what's beyond the door. But if somebody speaks to us, or they make some noise, then we can hear it. So that's the most subtlest. The sound is the most subtle. Immediately we can hear. So, tvacham asya minerbinam viveshur deshnayam oshatihe amshena roma bhikan kandum yer asa pratipadyate. When there was a separate manifestation of skin, the controlling deities of sensations and their different parts entered into it, and thus the living entities feel itching and happiness due to touch. For sense perception, there are two principal items, touching and itching, and both of them are controlled by the skin and hairs on the body. According to Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti, the controlling deity of touch is the air passing within the body, and the controlling deity of the hairs on the body is Oshadhya. For the skin, the object of perception is touch, and for the hairs on the body, the object of perception is itching. So imagine, so even for itching, it is under the control of Oshadhya. And he's controlling the hair which we have on the body, and because of that, we are able to feel the perception of itching. And touch is because of the skin. So we can see that all this is there in the gigantic universal form of the Lord. And so that's why we are also able to have all these experiences. Any questions, comments?
No, I would like to add to the last verse, like ear.
Yeah.
In like when we chant also, you recommend, and we are recommended that we should listen to what we are speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the, what do you say? I don't know what to say. In the Shastras also, it is said that the one who listens very well is more apt than the one who reads very well, I think. Bahushrut, they say Bahushrut. जो अच्छा सा सुनता है ना, वो ही ज्यादा ग्रास्प कर सकता है.
Attentively and
Yeah,
submissively.
attentive, to put an attentive ear to what you are listening to.
Yes. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Yes. Yes. That's true. Anyone wanted to share anything else? Oh no, then we can. Yes.
I just
Yes, please.
I had confusion after recording.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I just wanted to confirm one thing, that these are all the same deities and they were in the beginning, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
the same ones controlling everything. They're just repeating those, right?
Yeah. Earlier was, who was speaking? I forgot. Was it Brahmaji speaking or Sukadev Goswami? Now is Maitreya.
I think Sukadev Goswami was speaking previously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Canto 2.
Shukuvach.
Chapter
Yeah.
10, it's there.
Yeah. So, but that they are the same, right? It's non-different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I was just asking that. I just wanted to confirm that it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact, I was just going through now because I'm just reading, I've started reading the Canto 2, chapter 10. So we were discussing what is Adi-Devam, Adhyatmakam and Adi-Bhutam. So Adi-Devam is the controlling entities and Adhyatman is the control entities. And Adi-Bhutam, the material bodies. So that's what the difference is. So like you said, right, the controlling entities is Adi Devam.
Mm.
The Adhyatman is the control entity. So we are Adhyatman, the souls,
Yes.
the jivas, right?
Yes.
And then Adi Bhutam is the material bodies.
Adi
So
Buddha.
explain a bit on this part. This thing.
I'm sorry?
Could you explain a bit on this?
You're saying it's on Canto.
Canto 10, Canto 2 and chapter 10, text 14.
2, 10, 14. Okay, let's pull it up right away.
Yeah.
Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Wow. 2, 10, 14. Just hear from me now the potency of his lordship. Divides one into three, called the controlling entities, the control entities, and the material bodies in the manner mentioned above. Okay. Adidevam Adhyatmam Adibhutam iti Prabhu Athaikam Paurusham Viryam Tridha Bhidyata Takshanu. Just from
So if the word-to-word translation,
Adidevam, the
then it says
controlling entity.
controlling entities.
Yeah. So these are the demigods. Yes.
Demigods, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Adhyatmam, the control entities, we.
Okay.
Adhyatmam, that's right. And Adibhutam, the material body. So this our material body.
Okay. So our material bodies is known as Adibhutam.
Yeah, the material bodies. Yeah. Yeah.
Because in so many ways, like how.
That's what they say. Adideva.
Yeah, that's what we've been hearing, so it's a bit confusing.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's applied to many different categories.
Okay.
Yeah, it's applied to, say, misery. We heard about misery, then we heard of self-identification.
Yeah.
And then we just heard of to speech also. It seems it's also applied to speech. And now we are saying that it's applied to the controlling entities, the controlled entities, and the material body. So we can see. Okay, thank you.
So the other day, right? Remember I was telling, I'm getting a bit, because here we are hearing about the miseries and then we are hearing about self, right? Identity, and then, okay.
So then this, it seems it's being applied to many different spheres.
But I think it's so easy to remember, like as we say that Adi Devik are the miseries that we receive from the nature.
From the demigods.
Yeah, so like from the nature, like
Yeah.
whatever they are. And then Adi Bhautik is what we receive from our own body.
Oh, body, okay. Yeah,
And
we can.
Adhyatma is the one that we receive from the other jivas. The other jivas that give us.
Right.
The one that is Adi, like our body gives us, like a body is giving us more. So it's the same, right? Shilpaji, it applies to everything in the same way.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same. Adhyatmam, our own body and mind. Adibhutam, others. Adidevika, the demigods. Yes. So as we are seeing, this same concept is being applied to so many
Like
different,
okay.
for so many different things.
Now I think it's getting a bit, yeah. Okay.
So maybe it
Understanding
might
it
come
better.
across as being applied to something else also. Let's hear. Let's see.
Right.
We can find out. I'm not sure if it will be. But yeah. Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shilpa Shyam ki jai, Gaurav.
Jai.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.